Life is like a passing breeze. You feel it for a moment and then it's gone. We're here today, but tomorrow is not promised. Too often we live as if time will wait for us, but it doesn't. The truth is, every heartbeat is a gift. Every sunrise is a divine reminder. Your life has purpose, and your days are precious. There are people who wake up every morning believing they have all the time in the world. They plan for someday, forgetting that someday may never come. Friend, life is short, but that's exactly why each day matters so much. God has given you this day, not to waste it in fear, regret, or distraction, but to live it for Him with all your heart. When you live for God, ordinary moments become extraordinary. A simple prayer becomes a doorway to heaven. A kind word becomes a seed of eternal impact. A step of faith can change your destiny forever. Don't wait for a perfect season to start living for God. The perfect time is now. Look around you. Every soul you meet is eternal. Every action you take echoes beyond this world. When your final day comes, and it will, may your life not be filled with, "I wish I had," but with, "I'm glad I did." So rise each morning with purpose. Speak words of life. Love fiercely. Forgive quickly. Give generously. Worship wholeheartedly. Live every day as if it's your last, and live it for the one who gave it to you. Because when you live for God, even a short life becomes eternally significant. There's something profoundly sacred about the simple act of breathing. We often take it for granted because it happens without thought, without effort, without announcement. Yet behind every inhale and exhale lies a divine miracle. Proof that God has granted us another moment, another chance, another heartbeat to live with purpose. Life is fragile. It's not promised. Many woke up yesterday who didn't wake up today. And here you are, breathing, standing, listening. That breath in your lungs is not random, it's intentional. It's God saying, "I'm not done with you yet." When you begin to see each breath as a gift, your perspective shifts. You stop rushing through the day with blind routine and start living with gratitude, awareness, and reverence for the time you've been given. The moment you awaken to this truth, your life takes on new meaning. Not because the world has changed, but because your heart has. Breath is more than oxygen entering your lungs. It's evidence of divine mercy renewed every morning. Think about it. Each new breath is an invitation to experience grace again. There are people in hospital rooms struggling for every breath, praying for the moment you are living right now. What you overlook as ordinary is someone else's miracle. Too many times, we wait for something big to happen before we become thankful. But if you truly want to live a life that pleases God, it starts with appreciating the small, quiet miracles happening every second. Gratitude shifts your atmosphere. It calms anxious hearts. It softens hardened souls, and it draws your focus back to the one who sustains you. The simple act of breathing is God's gentle whisper, reminding you, you are still here because I still have a purpose for you. When life feels heavy, it's easy to lose sight of this truth. Stress, responsibilities, deadlines, and disappointments can make us forget how miraculous it is just to exist. But even in those moments, your breath continues. It doesn't stop to ask for your permission. It faithfully carries you through valleys and mountaintops alike. That's the beauty of God's design. You may feel tired, overwhelmed, or even broken, but your breath is proof that God's power is still working inside you. It's a reminder that no matter how difficult things may seem, He hasn't given up on you. Each breath says, you're still chosen, you're still loved, you're still part of my story. If you pause long enough to recognize this, even the toughest days begin to feel different. Your problems may not disappear, but your heart begins to remember who holds your life in His hand. Treasure doesn't always look like gold or luxury. Sometimes it looks like the unnoticed. The treasure God gives is often hidden in the everyday moments we overlook. The way sunlight breaks through your window, the laughter of someone you love, the stillness of a quiet morning. These are treasures clothed in simplicity. Your breath is the same. It may not shine or sparkle, but it's invaluable. If it were taken away, nothing else would matter. Treasuring your breath means honoring your life. It means not wasting your energy on bitterness, fear, or comparison. It means choosing to live intentionally, knowing that your time is a divine deposit, not to be squandered, but invested in things that truly matter. When you start valuing your breath, you stop living carelessly and start living consciously. Every breath carries potential. With each inhale, you're receiving strength. With each exhale, you're releasing yesterday. God gives you breath, not just to exist, but to make a difference, to love deeply, to walk in faith. Imagine if we lived every day as though each breath were our last. We would speak kinder words, forgive faster, hug tighter, pray more sincerely, and chase after what matters most. The urgency of life isn't meant to bring fear. It's meant to bring focus. Every time you breathe, it's like God handing you a blank page and saying, "Here's another chance. What will you write on it today?" The tragedy isn't in dying, it's in living without ever truly realizing the value of the breath that sustained you. So pause right where you are. Feel that breath moving in and out. It's invisible, but it's life. It's quiet, but it's powerful. It's simple, but it's sacred. In a world that constantly pushes you to want more, achieve more, and hurry faster, God invites you to slow down and treasure what you already have, the gift of life itself. When you learn to honor the gift of breath, you begin to walk through life differently. You become more present, more grateful, more aware of God's nearness. And suddenly, ordinary moments turn into divine encounters, not because they changed, but because you finally opened your eyes to see them for what they truly are, gifts straight from the heart of God. We live in a world where it's easy to assume that tomorrow will come. We make plans for next week, next month, next year, as if time is something we control. But deep down, we all know the truth. Tomorrow is not promised to anyone. The next sunrise is not guaranteed. Every new day is a gift that many never get to open. We often say, "I'll do it later," or "I'll start tomorrow," not realizing that procrastination can rob us of divine opportunities. What if tomorrow never comes? What if the words you meant to say, the prayers you meant to pray, or the steps of faith you delayed were meant for today? When you realize how fragile time is, you stop living casually and start living intentionally. You no longer let moments slip through your fingers. You stop waiting for a perfect time that may never arrive. Instead, you embrace each day as if it were your last, because one day it will be. This awareness doesn't bring fear, it brings clarity, urgency, and a deeper sense of purpose for the time you have now. Life can change in an instant. One unexpected phone call, one sudden event, and everything you assumed was stable can shift in a heartbeat. Too many people live with a mindset that there will always be more time to fix things, to love better, to draw closer to God. But the truth is, moments missed can never be reclaimed. When you understand the weight of time, you start to see every second as valuable. You pick up the phone to forgive that person. You share kind words before it's too late. You choose to love more deeply instead of holding grudges. The brevity of life isn't meant to make you anxious. It's meant to make you aware. It's a gentle reminder to not put off what God has placed in your heart today. Each sunrise is a new page in your story, but none of us know how many pages remain. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking someday will always be there. Someday I'll start praying more. Someday I'll tell him I love him. Someday I'll live fully for God. But someday is a dangerous word. It's often the graveyard of God-given dreams. There are countless lives filled with what-ifs and if-onlys because they kept waiting for the perfect moment. But there will never be a perfect moment. The only moment you truly have is now. The power to change, to forgive, to worship, to love, and to step into your calling is found in today. When you live with the awareness that tomorrow is not guaranteed, excuses begin to fade. You stop overthinking and start obeying. You stop waiting for signs and start walking by faith. The present becomes holy ground, a sacred space where divine opportunities unfold. Living today fully means being intentional with every area of your life. It means waking up and asking God, how can I bring glory to you with the time you've given me? It means not letting bitterness or regret occupy the space meant for peace. It means making every conversation meaningful, every prayer sincere, and every act of kindness genuine. When you live like this, your days may not be perfect, but they become purposeful. You begin to see interruptions not as annoyances, but as opportunities to love. You start noticing people you would have otherwise overlooked. You stop letting trivial distractions steal precious time. The value of a single day is immeasurable when it's lived with a heart fully present and aligned with God's will. Tomorrow is not promised, and that's why forgiveness must not be delayed. How many relationships remain broken because someone was waiting for the right time to make it right? How many dreams have died because people kept waiting for more favorable conditions? The truth is, the perfect time will never arrive. There's power in today, power to heal, to restore, to speak life, to take bold steps of faith. Living today fully requires courage. It requires choosing to act rather than postpone, to love rather than hesitate, to trust God even when you don't have all the answers. Every day is a blank page that God hands you. What you choose to write determines the legacy you leave behind. Pause and think for a moment. If this were your last day, what would you do differently? Who would you call? What would you say? How would you pray? These are not morbid questions. They are awakening questions. They strip away the distractions and bring you face to face with what truly matters. Every new morning is not just another day. It's an undeserved gift from God, a fresh chance to live with purpose, passion, and faith. When you embrace today with that mindset, time no longer slips away unnoticed. You begin to live fully, not in fear of tomorrow, but in deep gratitude for the present. You walk differently, speak differently, and love differently because you know the weight of every moment. There's a powerful transformation that happens when you begin to live your life fully for God. The mundane suddenly carries eternal weight, and the ordinary becomes a vessel for something divine. Simple actions, like a kind word, a sincere prayer, or a helping hand, may seem small in the eyes of the world, but in God's eyes, they ripple through eternity. When your heart is aligned with His, every moment becomes a divine appointment. You no longer see your daily routine as meaningless repetition, but as sacred opportunities to reflect His love and bring His presence into the world around you. A conversation at work can plant a seed of hope. A smile to a stranger can soften a hardened heart. A prayer whispered in faith can shift spiritual atmospheres. Living for God means inviting Him into every corner of your life, your words, your actions, your thoughts, so that nothing is wasted. Even what seems insignificant becomes a part of His eternal story. So often we chase after big moments, thinking they are the only ones that matter. We wait for grand opportunities, huge platforms, or dramatic events to feel like our lives have meaning. But God is not limited to the extraordinary. He moves powerfully in the ordinary. Jesus often used everyday moments, sharing meals, walking on roads, speaking to individuals one by one, to reveal heaven on earth. When you live for God, you begin to see that the smallest acts of faith can have the greatest impact. What the world considers unimportant, God treasures deeply. When you hold a child's hand, encourage a hurting soul, or faithfully do your daily task with love, you are participating in something eternal. God takes what seems small and uses it to build His kingdom. Living for God means that your life is no longer divided between sacred and secular. Every part of your day becomes sacred territory when surrendered to Him. Washing dishes while singing praise, working diligently at your job, or comforting someone in pain. These things, when done in love and obedience, carry eternal significance. There is no moment too simple, no action too small that God cannot use for His glory. He delights in taking the everyday rhythms of your life and breathing His presence into them. When you understand this, your perspective changes. You stop searching for meaning outside of where you are and start recognizing that God is already present, waiting for you to include Him in what you're doing right now. When your heart is set on God, even challenges and routine struggles take on new meaning. Tasks that once felt boring or burdensome become opportunities to glorify Him. Serving your family, showing kindness to difficult people, or being faithful in hidden places, these things matter to God. Heaven sees the quiet sacrifices no one else notices. God measures greatness differently than the world. He doesn't just look at the size of what you do, He looks at the heart behind it. When you offer your ordinary moments to Him, He multiplies them in ways you may never see in this life. A single act of obedience can affect generations. A private prayer can move mountains in someone else's life. Living for God transforms daily life into a canvas where eternal purposes are painted. This way of living removes the pressure to constantly achieve something impressive. Instead of striving for recognition, you rest in the assurance that God values faithfulness above fame. It's not about how much attention you receive, but how fully you surrender what you have into His hands. A simple yes to God in an ordinary situation can open doors you never imagined. Living this way brings deep joy and peace because you realize that your life has eternal meaning even when no one else sees what you're doing. The eternal impact of your life is not determined by your platform, but by your posture, your willingness to let God work through your everyday moments. When you live for God, your story becomes intertwined with His eternal plan. The small choices you make daily, choosing love over bitterness, faith over fear, obedience over comfort, are writing chapters that will echo beyond this lifetime. Heaven celebrates what the world overlooks: the unseen prayers, the unnoticed sacrifices, the quiet acts of love. All of these are building something everlasting. You may never fully grasp the impact of a single conversation, a moment of kindness, or a prayer whispered in faith, but God does. He sees every detail, and nothing offered to Him is wasted. When the ordinary is surrendered to God, it becomes a seed sown into eternity, bearing fruit far beyond what the eye can see. There is a deep peace that comes from knowing you have lived your life fully for God. It's a peace that no wealth, achievement, or worldly success can offer. When you live for Him, every decision, every action, and every moment is guided by something greater than yourself. You stop chasing temporary pleasures and start investing in eternal treasures. Regret often comes from missed opportunities, unspoken words, and a life spent pursuing things that don't last. But when your heart is anchored in God, you begin to live with intention, purpose, and clarity. You love more deeply, give more freely, and walk more faithfully. A life lived for God is not a life without struggles, but it is a life without wasted time. You make choices that reflect eternity, and when the day comes to look back, there's a sense of fulfillment knowing you poured your life into what truly mattered. Many people spend their final moments looking back with sorrow, wishing they had loved more, forgiven sooner, or lived with greater faith. They realize too late that possession, status, and fleeting pleasures cannot follow them into eternity. But those who live for God look back differently. Their eyes aren't filled with regret, but with gratitude for the journey they walked in obedience. They may not have been perfect, but they gave their lives to something bigger than themselves. Living for God means making daily decisions that align with His will, even when it's difficult. It means prioritizing what matters in eternity over what's popular in the moment. When your life is surrendered to Him, you don't have to wonder, what if, when the end approaches, because your heart knows you lived for the one who gave you life in the first place. Regret often hides in the quiet corners of our hearts, things we didn't say, opportunities we ignored, people we didn't forgive, time we didn't value. But a life lived for God closes those gaps. It teaches you to speak words of love while you have the chance, to forgive quickly, and to use your time wisely. It reminds you that every day is a gift and every interaction carries weight. When you live with this awareness, you stop postponing the important things. You stop assuming there will always be more time to make things right. Instead, you start living intentionally in the present, allowing God to guide your words and actions. This kind of living doesn't leave room for bitterness or if-onlys. It cultivates a heart of peace, knowing that you did what you were called to do with the time you were given. A life without regrets is not built on grand gestures alone, but on consistent obedience. It's the quiet faithfulness in hidden places, the unwavering trust in God's timing, and the willingness to follow Him even when the path is uncertain. Regret fades when your focus shifts from personal gain to divine purpose. Each choice, big or small, becomes a stepping stone in a legacy that points to God's glory. You may not always see the results immediately, but God sees every act of faith. The seeds you plant through prayer, kindness, and obedience will bear fruit in their season. When you look back on your life lived for Him, you won't remember the things you didn't achieve according to the world's standards. You'll remember the lives touched, the love shared, and the faith that carried you through every season. One of the greatest sources of regret is living to please others instead of God. People's opinions shift, their praise fades, and their approval is never enough to sustain a soul. But when you live to please God, you build your life on unshakable ground. You don't live for applause, you live for eternal impact. This frees you from the weight of comparison, fear, and trying to prove yourself. You begin to make decisions based on truth, not trends. Even when others don't understand your choices, you have the assurance that your obedience matters. A life lived for God is rooted in faith, not in the need to impress. And when the time comes to reflect, there's no regret over trying to be someone you weren't. You'll know you walked in the identity God gave you. As time passes, the things we thought were important often fade, but the things done for God remain. Acts of love, moments of faith, sacrifices made for His kingdom. These are the things that echo into eternity. A life lived for God is one that builds treasures where rust and decay cannot reach. It's a life that brings light into darkness and hope into broken places. When you live this way, you reach the end not with a heart full of regrets, but with a heart full of memories of walking with God through every season. You see His hand in every chapter. You remember the prayers He answered, the lives He touched through you, and the moments you trusted Him, even when it was hard. This is the legacy of a life surrendered to Him. Peace in the present and joy in the reflection of a life well lived. Life is a divine gift, fragile and fleeting, and each breath we take is a silent reminder of God's mercy and purpose. When we truly grasp how short and unpredictable life is, our hearts awaken to the urgency of living each day with intention. Tomorrow is not promised, and the moments we have right now are precious opportunities to reflect God's love, fulfill His will, and make choices that echo into eternity. Every ordinary act, when surrendered to Him, becomes sacred. A kind word, a prayer spoken in faith, a step of obedience. All of these may seem small in the moment, but in God's hands they carry eternal weight. Living for God transforms the way we see our days. No moment is wasted, no act is too small, and no season is insignificant. When He is at the center, it removes the burden of regret, because a heart anchored in Him walks with clarity and peace. We stop waiting for perfect circumstances and start embracing the divine opportunities hidden in our daily lives. We speak words of life, forgive freely, love deeply, and live with faith that outlasts every challenge. A life lived for God is not measured by the length of our days, but by the depth of our surrender. It builds a legacy that doesn't fade with time, a legacy of faith, love, and obedience. As we reflect on this truth, may our hearts be stirred to live intentionally, honor every breath, and make each day count for His glory. Let your life shine with purpose and passion, knowing that what you do for God is never in vain. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you richly in every step you take.